Hey, SpaceWatchers! This is Space Cafe Radio, your new SpaceWatch.Global channel about trends, people, and conferences. When our SpaceWatch team is on the road, we will talk with wonderful and inspiring humans, and we'll let you know all about the cool things they share with us. My name is Chiara Monter, event coordinator in our SpaceWatch.Global team. End of September this year, I was lucky enough to attend the UNIDIR Outer Space Security Conference in Geneva at the UN. If that wasn't exciting enough, I also had the great opportunity to talk with Almudena Azcárate Ortega, Associate Researcher at UNIDIR and organizer of the Outer Space Security Conference. We sat down for a chat after the end of the conference on day 2. Here is our interview. I'm here today with Almudena Azcárate Ortega from UNIDIR. So thank you so much for sitting down with me for a quick chat. And it's been a really great conference. Today was the last day. But before we get further into that, I'd love to know more about the work that you do on a regular basis at UNIDIR. So maybe you can tell me a bit more about that.
Okay, thank you for having me. I actually haven't been with UNIDIR very long. I started working here mid-April, and I've actually only been in Geneva since mid-June. So I'm still a bit of a newbie and still figuring everything out. My predecessor was Daniel Porres, who I'm sure you're familiar with, and he was great in showing me the ropes. But I'm still trying to figure some things out. Essentially, the work that we do relates to space security. As you may know, there are several UN offices or agencies or institutes that do work related to space, like UNISA or UNODA. The most well-known is perhaps UNISA, which focuses on more the peaceful uses of outer space. And UNIDIR, by contrast, the research that we do focuses more on the security aspect of outer space. So, for example, let's say the prevention of an arms race in outer space. And so we try to focus our attention on the most current or the most pressing matters surrounding space security. And we conduct research on these topics to help inform states about these issues, give them a more of an expert's point of view that might inform the policies that they negotiate and that they come up with.
Could you maybe elaborate a little bit more on some examples of the research that you're conducting?
Yes, absolutely. We have several focuses on how we do this that I just spoke about. So one would be explicitly research, which would be, the image that you have of like me being in a library and like looking things up and writing things up. And so we produce reports, for example, one on the drivers of an arms race, co-authored by Dan Porres and Benjamin Silverstein, both of whom were part of the conference. Right now, we're working on a space dossier, that's how our reports on space are called, on norms and the role that they can play in space security, whether they could be a good way to go moving forward, whether they can complement other types of measures. We're trying to take some of the conversations that have been had during the conference on these issues and try to give a more technical analysis on it. Another thing that we are currently researching is dual-use objects, for example, trying to figure out what a feasible or suitable definition for them would be, if finding a definition would be a thing that the international community should focus on, the role that they play in hindering Paris, or by contrast in helping further the goals of Paris, that sort of thing. So that's the research part. Then we also do events. For example, we are currently focusing on industry engagement. And we have this industry engagement program, so to say, in which we are organizing smaller workshops with industry actors to talk about space security issues, get their views, their different perspectives on these issues, because they are slightly different from what we traditionally hear from states. So we think it's good to get these new perspectives that may inform state decisions in the future. We had our first of these workshops back in August. Today we had a panel on industry actors, which hopefully will continue to further the dialogue. And we hope down the line, towards the end of this year, we'll also have a few more events in this framework of this industry engagement plan that we have. We also have greater projects that are like this conference, events to get people in the room talking about these issues. They can be conferences of this magnitude. This is the biggest conference we have on space security, or they can be smaller events. Like, for example, last year we had what was called the Launchpad series or the Launchpad seminars, which were small webinars with experts on different issues. And they were very successful. I think the virtual formats helped to reach a lot of people. And then we have other types of projects like what we were talking before, and I think Robin addressed in the talk that he had with you guys, like the Space Security Lexicon or the Space Security Portal, those sorts of maybe more ambitious projects that don't fall in the reports category and don't fall into the event category. So that's a bit of an overview.
Super exciting. It's also great to hear that it goes into all these different areas as well. But now I'm also interested because we talked briefly yesterday and you were mentioning something about your PhD project as well.
Yes.
So could you tell me a bit more about that?
Absolutely. I haven't been doing my PhD dissertation for very long. I just started my second year.
Okay.
I'm a PhD student at Georgetown University at Law Center, and the focus of my research is dual use objects. I'm trying to figure out whether their existence or their use is a driver for the weaponization of outer space, what role they play in heightening tensions if they do at all, and if so, what can be done to prevent this or to minimize or mitigate this. And I'm a lawyer, so I'm analyzing it from a legal perspective. So I'm looking at things like the threat of use of force or the use of force or IHL, that sort of thing.
Okay, but then there's quite a lot of connection points now as well with this work and with the other projects that you're doing from UNIDIR as well.
Yes, it's really great because being here is allowing me to work on what I do also for my research project, which is really great. And it's also giving me the opportunity to meet some of the people that are very actively working and very directly working on these issues, the drafters of the resolutions that I talk about in my research. So it's been really amazing to get to experience that by being here.
Now I'd like to do a short jump to the Outer Space Security Conference that we've had these past 2 days. And personally, I found it very interesting, really amazing to see all these different topics being discussed in the panels. And it must have been a lot of work to organize. How long have you been working on this and preparing it?
This was one of the first things that they told me I had to do. So say that they told me was going to happen or was the responsibility of the space researcher. In fact, they told me even before I got the job. It was one of the things that was featured in the set of criteria or the job description that I saw when I applied. And during my interview, they told me about it. They asked me about it. So I've known for quite a bit of time. To give you an idea, I applied for this job in December of 2020, towards the end of last year. So I've known for quite some time. I started working, as I said before, back in mid-April. And it was one of the first things that I was tasked with. At the very beginning, it seemed like this very abstract idea. We didn't even have a date. That it's been a process. The most intense period of time to organize this has obviously been the last month, maybe the last couple of months. It's been a very unique experience for me. I hadn't done anything like this before. I had organized events of sorts before, but never to this scale. And it's been very interesting to find out what goes into planning this sort of thing. And I've been very lucky to not be alone while doing it. Honestly, the support that I've had from the whole UNIDIR team has been amazing, and also being able to have partners like the Secure War Foundation, FRS, the states that have been collaborating with us, which are the Russian Federation, the People's Republic of China, as well as the French Republic. We've had several meetings with them. They've helped us choose speakers and they've helped us choose moderators. So it's not just been me. It's been a lot of people that have been organizing this. It really takes a village. So I was very glad not to be alone because there are loads of things that you have to think about when you plan a conference of this magnitude, for sure.
I can imagine, yeah. And especially on the subject of picking the speakers as well, because it's been such a wide range of people on the stage, but also quite a lot of familiar faces as well. Mm-hmm. And I was just wondering, since it is like the space security sector is quite a small community, how do you, in these very large-scale events, also ensure that you include like new talents or upcoming people as well? Was there like a bit of a selection criteria?
Yes, there was definitely a selection criteria. Two things that were really important for us was to have gender diversity and to have geographical diversity. I was really proud to see that we achieved that. That was really important for us. So one of the things that was really helpful, for example, for the diversity aspect, was to talk to the states that we were organising this with. For example, the Chinese were particularly helpful. They helped us reach out to possible candidates that we could have. In the end, it was always UNIDIR's decision of who gets invited to talk, but it's always really good to have the support of partners to decide all of this. And as you say, the space community is quite small, and the space security community is even smaller. So for sure, there is always some people that are always there. But I just think that since everything in the space world moves so fast, there is always things happening that even if the faces are familiar, the topics that they will be discussing aren't necessarily, and that they always keep up to date with what's happening. So they are always in the know. And there are some people that it's just, oh, I cannot invite this person because they just know so much about the subject. But yes, I think we had a very nice group of people. And on the diversity aspect especially, I was happy that we were able to get people in the room that maybe you don't traditionally see in conferences such as this. So that was exciting to get them to talk and to get the chance to be there while they exchange all these ideas.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that is also a given through the hybrid format of the event, that it was a bit easier to get some of these people on board?
Yes. So COVID didn't make things easier for sure. I'm sure that I'm probably preaching to the choir since you organize a lot of interviews with a lot of people. But yes, in principle, this was going to be an in-person event. Mm-hmm. And traditionally, the Outer Space Conference has always been an in-person event. Due to COVID, we thought when we started thinking about organizing this conference that yeah, sure, towards the end of the year, towards after the summer, everything will be better. COVID will be gone, a thing of the past. But no, as time passed, we saw that it was not the case. So we started exploring the option of having it in person, but also having a virtual component. And especially since we were starting to hear that a lot of the candidates that we had preliminarily picked out as possible speakers were telling us that they didn't think they were going to be able to travel to Geneva. In the end, we decided to do this in person with virtual component thing, which I think works really well. Logistically, it wasn't the easiest to organize, and I have to give special kudos here to my colleague Letitia. She was fantastic in, setting everything up to make sure that the virtual component of things worked really well. It enabled us to have a very wide range of speakers from all over the world, and also a very wide range of attendees from all over, which was pretty amazing. I think it's been our most successful outer space conference ever.
Okay.
So that's been really cool.
Yeah, because that would have been my next question also on the subject of diversity. I don't know if you can say much about this yet, but if you see the diversity in the attendees as well now.
Yes, I don't know the lists by heart. We did have registrants from all over the world for sure. And it's true that with time, it is a bit harder. But if there is something that can be said from the space community, is that they are certainly dedicated. I heard from people like waking up really early or staying up until really late. So that's been really wonderful that people were interested enough to sacrifice their sleep in that way.
Yeah, really great sign. And now it's over. You have some time to breathe again. But as our final questions, looking at like the key takeaways, one thing would be, what do you hope that attendees take with them from this conference this year?
Okay, that's a hard question. I do hope that the dialogue that we've started today, and I think Robin mentioned this in his closing remarks, the dialogue that was started or that was had during these couple of days, that it doesn't stop here, that this serves to continue the conversation going, especially as the international community is going to go on to first committee starting next week. And I hope that this raises awareness, that the fact that we've had so many people attending from all over the world, maybe this can mean that it raises awareness about the importance of space security matters, of the importance of keeping space a secure and peaceful domain, that this is not just an issue that a bunch of nerds talk about, a bunch of nerds among which I very proudly include myself. it's not just something that concerns very few. Even if a state is not a space actor, everyone benefits from space in some way or some other way. It's important to talk about these issues and it's important to address them. So hopefully conferences such as this one can raise awareness about this fact and get people talking and people listening.
Definitely. I think that has definitely been achieved. As a final question, and it links onto the last one, it's what is your main takeaway from this, from the conference itself, but maybe also from the organization? What is something that stuck with you?
I was happy to see that in some of the issues that are generally considered to be contentious, I was happy to see that there is a general feeling of if we want to talk about it. This is not an issue of I'm just going to just keep my argument and not change my mind. Quite the contrary, I think there was really a feeling of dialogue, of willingness to talk, of openness in that sense. So that's what I take away from this, and I hope that this is something that can continue along the line as states continue to discuss these issues. And as well, I'm very pleased to see that the non-state actors, such as the commercial industry, are starting to become part of this conversation, because as was said in the very last panel of today, commercial industry makes a very big part of space technology. It is important that they also share their opinions and their concerns, that they be listened to. So I was very happy that they were able to be part of this conference. And I hope this opens the door for them to be, part of the conversation at large. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, great job to you and all your colleagues for organizing this conference.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being here.
I was so privileged to speak with Almudena. What an inspiring woman in our space sector. We wish her all the best and hope to collaborate further with her and SpaceWatch.Global. Thank you all so much for listening to our Space Cafe Radio today. If you have any remarks, ideas, complaints, or just want to say hi, write to us at radio@SpaceWatch.Global. We're looking forward to hearing from you. I'm Chiara, Event Coordinator at SpaceWatch.Global. And with that, I leave you for today. And don't forget, become a Space Watcher. Bye!